Welcome back to Roundtable Talks. My name is David, and today we have Madiha Khan joining us. Thank you, Madiha, for joining.
Thank you for having me.
Madiha, how long have you been in the business?
I've been around 20 years now.
20 years.
Yeah, but different aspects of the business in real estate.
So you must have started when you were 10.
No. Well, yes, I did.
Or 9.
Yes, yeah, exactly.
29
Yes.
forever. What is the one thing in your business that you really didn't expect before you got in the business, but you didn't expect it to be this?
So when I first started, I was actually as a tour guide in model suites. So back in the day, they had really lavish model suites. So it was like the Price is Right girl. This is your refrigerator
nice.
and this is your stove. And I was very young in high school, so I didn't expect it being a relationship building business.
Right.
It's all about connections and how you connect with people. And I think it was a huge part of my growth. Personally, working there, being able to speak to people and connect with people, because there's so many different types of people who walk into the sales center and they all have one goal, but for you to actually deliver the message of what's included,
right,
and to recognize what their pain points are, what their interests are. So I didn't realize at the time that it's not just selling a home, it's actually making connections with people.
And I think that's key to whether it's our industry or any industry.
Right.
It's all about connections and relationship building. What do you think is the most a personality trait that someone coming into the industry should adopt?
I think it's the relationship building business, right? I think any job, not just real estate, is everyone's a salesperson.
Yeah.
Right? We're all salespeople
Yeah.
walking around in any professional, in any profession of ours. But I think that relationship building piece and connecting with people is really, really key to understand people, to listen to learn,
Right.
and understand what their pain points are, and then to help them get there. And also empathy, I think, to recognize that they're here for a reason, and what that reason is. That, if you've lost in a bidding war, speak to them.
Right.
It does suck,
Yeah.
and we'll try again. But to really figure out learn about them and empathize with them and build that connection. I've done in the past 4 years, I've done 5 transactions with the same client.
And that's built relationship building.
Exactly.
Because most likely, Madiha, they wouldn't be using you if they didn't have that connection
Right,
with you. Yeah.
right. So it's really like being friends with them and understanding where they are and meeting them there.
Now, what have you done in between from the transaction to the next transaction? Outside of the relationship, is there any sort of follow-up that you've done with them throughout the years to stay in contact?
Absolutely. We follow up is key. We've now become friendlier than we were when we started,
Right.
but I have every couple of months been in touch with them. I remember their birthdays, I remember their traditions, and if there's events that I think their kids would be interested in,
Right.
I let them know of that. We live in close by neighborhoods, like my family and theirs, so
Yep.
I'll make a point to let them know what's going on in the city. And if they have something that they would like me to support, I always have sponsorships with their kids' schools or whatever it is.
Yeah.
I'm involved, and I am available to them should they have a question anytime about anything real estate related.
Too many agents take the route of not being relationship style and more
Right.
transactional, and I think it just doesn't work long term.
It is a lot of effort,
Yeah,
though, right?
it's not easy to do it.
No, and I'll constantly keep in mind, okay, so what's
And that's
happening?
one client.
Right.
Imagine multiple clients
Right.
in that situation.
Yeah.
It's a
Yeah.
full-time job.
It is, on its own,
Yeah.
absolutely. But for me, it's important, I want to be top of mind. So
Yeah.
if I can, be supportive or offer help, and it's not just real estate related.
Yeah, you're just going above and beyond,
Yeah.
which is what I think you need to do
Yeah.
in order to maintain the relationship and client.
Yeah.
So saying that, what one piece of advice would you give to someone that's starting off in the business?
Again, the relationship piece, but when you're starting off, networking, I think, is really important. You're a solo entrepreneur. I've worked in the corporate world where the corporations sponsor all these events, so all the opportunities are coming directly in your inbox. But when you're working independently, you have to seek those opportunities, right? So there's work, there's personal life, and then there's this investment piece within your network. So it's not just meeting new people, but it's also investing in yourself to learn. Like, this is your craft.
Yeah.
Like, be good at it. So I'm always investing in courses I can take to learn more and better myself, and always networking. So put yourself out there, meet new people, let people know what you do, because if you don't talk about what you do, they're not going to know what you do.
Of course, and I think I've always maintained that the one of the hurdles for many agents in this business is, and I think it's a lifeline for us, is lead generation. And lead generation comes in many forms. In your case, it's more networking within your sphere, which is probably the best lead generation source that you can do, but it takes work.
It does.
It's not just going to come to you. Talk to me about pre-construction. Why have you, whether you chose it or not, but you seem to gravitate to that field of selling. What do you like about it, and what are your hurdles? What do you like about pre-construction?
So I started my career in real estate and pre-construction. So it's working with a listing brokerage who at the time was one of the largest players in marketing and selling pre-construction buildings. And some of the top builders in the city were our clients. So I just fell into it, and then I fell in love with it. I find it absolutely fascinating, the newer buildings and creating new communities, and it's a funner part of real estate for me. And I've also worked with a developer as well in pre-construction high-rise. So over the years, I've seen so much development happen and worked on some really great projects. Like I worked on the residences at the Ritz-Carlton, the TIFF Toronto Film Festival building, and the North York Towers. So, I can walk around the city and be like, this is when I was in, high school and university, because it's tangible for me, and that's exciting to me when you walk around the city and you can point to stuff you've worked at and you've seen it developed. And at that role, I was actually sitting at the table with builders, architects, and designers, like really putting this building together from the blueprint.
And there's a lot to put together.
There is,
It's not, I think when we get to the sales stage of things, there's 5 years before that of putting everything together with permits and design and all of that stuff.
Yeah. So
you're looking at the meat and potatoes of the project at the very beginning.
Yeah.
And then when I guess you're at the end of it, when it's all sold, you've been there from the beginning to the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We're shaping the skyline in Toronto. Like this is history, right? Like now I have children, I can drive around the city and talk about, I worked on this and I sold this, and that's fun. That's really fun for me.
Now, let's move to the investment side of things. Why do you believe that pre-construction is a good investment for whether it's a novice investor or buyers in general, or your client base?
I think there's several ways of growing your wealth, and in pre-construction in Toronto, I think it's a tremendous opportunity. We live in a city that's rapidly growing. It's ranks really high for a place to live and work in, and we have this opportunity to invest and see it grow. We're still in our infancy stage, right, of growing. So that's huge potential from an investment perspective. I bought my first pre-construction at 22, and back in the day, it was easier to get in from a capital perspective.
Right.
But I've built a healthy portfolio over the years. How else can you do that? Like, as I'm not a person in the stock, like I don't know the stock market as well, but you can lose your money in the stock market. But real estate, like it's more tangible asset for the longer term, and it's an easier buy-in.
I think it is. As far as there's talk a lot today about condos not being cash flow positive, and I had a piece that I did earlier this month about it's not just about the cash flow, and I know in any investment school they're going to say cash flows is what you're looking for, but I also believe that it doesn't happen in Toronto that easily. But what Toronto does allow you to do is, because of the number of projects that we have, and I'm going to go back to you grew your portfolio. Right. If you didn't buy that first property, it would have been much harder to grow that portfolio.
I wouldn't have done it otherwise.
You just wouldn't be able to do it that easily, or maybe not at all. So I find it gives someone an opportunity to get their foot on the ladder to own something, and then build from there.
Absolutely.
And I think condos offer that option, or that opportunity, I should say.
Well, living in Canada, like we're in such a high tax environment. Like how else do you generate your wealth, right? Like for the average person.
Right.
This is an easier way to get into the market. And when I first started, it was more about securing a financial freedom for myself, whatever that looked like. I didn't understand it in the 20s, but I wanted to get in.
Right.
It was easier. I was working there, so it was more comfortable for me to do so. But now I have children, and to me, it's like, now it's with purpose.
Yeah.
Like it's for their future and my retirement. And the way things are progressing in Toronto from an affordability and pricing perspective, it's quite clear that I may not be able to afford it for them when they turn 18, or they may not be able to afford it for themselves when they are of age. So if I'm aggressively investing today and building my portfolio so we have something for our children when they grow older, right?
Now, do you find that because you're actually, Madiha, an investor yourself, it's much easier for you to present, and I'm not going to say sell, because I don't like to use the word sell, but to present the opportunities to your sphere to say, hey, this is what I do for my family and myself, and it's worked well. And you're just duplicating what has worked well for you, for your clients.
100%.
Yeah.
Like I'm just not a salesperson. Like I'm an investor myself. I've been through the process from A to Z. Like I'm also a landlord. I know the pain points of being a landlord. I've done, I've got several keys. I've done occupancies. I've done closings. I've bought from floor plans, the sales centers. I've bought in assignments. I've sold. So
A to Z.
Yeah, totally. So, and that's the feedback I do get from my clients. It's like, I have a renter. What should I look for?
Yep.
I've been through that, and I can talk about my experiences.
Right.
I can say what worked well, what didn't work well, and I just closed. This is what that experience looks like. I attend PDIs with my clients. I attend decor appointments with my clients, and 6 years later, when they've got the keys, I lease the units for my clients, and then I find them, in a couple of years, the next renter, right? So having been
Or the next investment through refinance.
Absolutely, yeah. It's an amazing way to generate wealth, like build your wealth for yourself and future for your children.
Yeah, and I think one of the misconceptions is you don't need an abundance of money to get into the market.
No.
There's a lot of opportunity from as low as 5% down payments up to 15, 20%. But there's a lot of opportunity, and that's the benefit, I think, of us being in Toronto with 250 plus cranes at any given time in the city. There's a lot to choose from, and there's a lot for every type of investor to get
Absolutely.
in. Yeah. Madiha, I want to thank you for joining me today.
Thank you.
Remember to subscribe to this channel and hit like. Until next time, have a good day.